Hi everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk and thank you very much for joining me today. Today's video is a little bit of departure from my normal format. Now what I normally do at this stage of the proceedings is show you something I've been making, a card or a box or something like that, and then I go on to show you how I made it. Now today I haven't got a finished project as such to show you, because what I wanted to do today was to talk about these lovely things. These are Brushos. Now what is Brusho? Why do you want it? What can you do with it? Okay, so I'm going to try and show you a couple of techniques for using Brushos, and to tell you about them and to explain what their properties are. So bear with me, and that is what I'm going to do. So to begin with, Brushos are new to Stampin' Up, but they're not new to the art and crafting world. They've been around for quite a number of years now, but in the Spring-Summer catalogue this year, Stampin' Up are now offering you a set of 5 colours. So they've chosen a nice little rainbow for you. We've got Brilliant Red, Gamboge, which is a sort of orange, yellow, moss green and Prussian blue. And if I turn my pots up, you can see what those colours actually look like. So that's a nice little rainbow of colour there. These are not the only colours that you can get in Brusho. Alright, there is quite a few colours of Brusho, and if I just bring in the rest of my collection to show you, as you can see, I have been collecting Brushos for quite some time, so I'm really thrilled. Can't tell you how thrilled I am that Stampin' Up are now giving you the opportunity to buy Brushos from the company. They are crystal colours, and they are a very fine powder, and in fact we don't even recommend that you even open the pots. I have done on the moss green, but the other 4 pots are all still sealed, because the powder is so fine it will go anywhere. Okay, ask me how I know, and I will be very brave. Okay, and I will just open up the moss green to show you. I mean, that powder is super fine, and I'm going to put the lid back on that before it escapes and does some damage. They are water soluble, so any technique that you can do with a watercolor, pretty much you can do with Brushos. So we're going to be playing with a couple of techniques in a little while, but the other thing I want to talk about is what you can put them on. All right, so because they are because you are using a lot of water with them, as we'll show you in a minute, you need a fairly sturdy surface for them to go on. So I have here some of the things that I have tried, and watercolor paper is absolutely perfect with them, because watercolor paper is very strong and sturdy, and it will soak up the colour, and it will do you really well. I've got some thick whisper white, and I've tried some of the techniques with thick whisper white, and it's worked absolutely fine, and some shimmering white. Okay, so any of the cards or papers that you would normally use watercolor with, Brushos will work beautifully with. And I've got another kind of card which I haven't tried Brushos with, but I'm going to give that a go today, and that is a glossy white card. Alright, now I haven't tried Brushos on this. It may all go horribly wrong. We'll find out together. So I've got a couple of scraps of watercolour paper, and I'm going to put a craft sheet down to protect my work surface, and I've got some water here. I'm just going to fill the well in the middle of my palette there with some water, and I'm going to start. Let's go around the rainbow, shall we? So what I've done is I've pierced a hole in the middle of the cap of my Brushos, and I keep it closed with one of these things, which I call a map pin. I don't know, has it got other names? That's what I call it anyway. Okay, so I've just tapped out just a very little bit of the crystal colour, and as you can see, these pots will last you a very long time, unless you're doing an awful lot of painting every day. So I'm just going to wet my brush, and I'm just going to wet those crystals, and can you see how intense that colour is? Okay, I'm going to paint that onto my watercolour card. See, I can't craft and talk at the same time, and that is really, really super intense. Okay, and you can use them like that. You can use them just like a paint. What I haven't got is a cloth to wipe my brush off on, so excuse me for one moment while I get one. There we go. So I'm just going to wipe as much colour as possible off that one, off the brush, before I go into my next colour, which is gamboge. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how I pronounce it anyway. If you've got other ideas, you go ahead. Okay, so let's have a little bit of water and pick up that colour. Isn't that glorious? Look at that. And we can put that up, and just like an ordinary watercolour. Okay, I can mix and match the colours. Probably going to need to get, and the more water you put with it, the paler it gets. Okay, so the next colour in line is yellow, and you can see the small amount of smallest amount of colour. I think maybe let's get some. I think I've possibly got a bit too much of the orange in with that, but you know, and I mean that's the kind of colour that it comes out with. Right, just put a bit of water in a different well, so I've got clean water going on here. Right, I'm going to come to the moss green last, okay? Because moss green is a bit of a strange one. So the next colour I'm going to use is Prussian blue. So just tapping out a few crystals. And let's pick some of that up. And look at that. Now this is, for me, this is kind of like a dapper denim-y kind of blue. And that is really, really vivid and strong. And let's water it down a little bit and get some of that yellow in there. Okay, and again, add more water and it gets a bit paler. So as you can see, I've got a nice rainbow going on there, and let's try adding a little bit of red at the end, seeing what sort of colour I get. And you get a sort of a purple with the Prussian blue. It's not the best mix of colour, but I've got kind of a rainbow going on there with my Brushos. That's rather cool. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to dry. I've got rather mucky water now. Perhaps I should have used one of my painter. That would have been a good idea. Okay, now then, the moss green. The reason why I opened this one up to have a look at it, because when I first used this, I thought they put the wrong powder in the pot, because a little bit of clean water up here and a bit of moss green over here. Okay, because that is not green. Can you see? That's a sort of a browny colour. Now, some of them do look very different in the pot to the way that they come out. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And when I put the colour on it, it actually looked more like purple than anything else. You know, or dark brown. Look at that. And I thought, they've sold me a dud. Right, there's something wrong with this. And then I added in a bit more water. I was like, no, it's not happening, that's not green. Okay. So then I did this, I got cloth, and I went, right, okay, let's dab that up. And then, oh, actually, now that's starting to look a bit green now. Okay. So moss green, if you're expecting something like an old olive, you may be surprised. Alright, because I certainly was. But it is a very strange one, moss green. Now, some of the colours of Brushos, if you do this with them, you sprinkle some directly on your paper. Oops, I've got my cable wanting to come into the picture here. And you spray them with some water. The colour splits. And as you can, if you can see, you've got little bits of purple there. Look at that. And you've got the brown, and you've got some green, but you've got all sorts of strange things going on. I'm going to block that with my cloth. Okay, and there you go, and there you've got your green again. So, if you know, don't be surprised. Well, you will, you might be surprised, but that's how it's meant to be. If I show you, I've got some more that I've been playing with here. Now, on this side, I've been using shimmery white paper. And if you can see that does give you a lovely sheen to it. But on this side, I put down some clumps of Brushos crystals, and I sprayed them with my spray bottle of ordinary water. Came out of the tap, and as you can see, the colours have split apart. So you've got these really dark, almost dark brown kind of colours going on, and then you've got some brighter greens, and you've got this really vivid purple. Alright, so it's so unusual, and there are a couple of colours of Brushos that will do that kind of thing for you. Alright, so just the first thing you can do with them is that you can use them just like paint. Right, what else can you do with them? Well, if you've got a nice sturdy sort of card, you can drop your crystals on and you can spray them. So let me get a piece of, what should we have? Shall we have watercolor card, or should we have shimmery white? I don't know, let's go with the watercolor card, because I did a bit of shimmery white earlier on. Alright, so I'm just going to take a few colours, not the whole shooting match. So what should we do? Let's have Prussian blue. So I'm not going to put too much of that on, because it's quite a strong colour. And let's have gamboge. And yellow. Now again, how much you put on, what colours you put on, it's entirely up to you. So that's going on to dry card, and I'm just going to spray it. Okay. Now the other thing I could have done, which I will probably do with the shimmering white in a minute, is gone dry into wet. But this is dry crystals going down and then just sprayed. You can try and control it a little bit. Okay. And if it's getting a bit out of control, you can just blot it a bit, or you can put it on one side, leave it to dry. Okay. Now, using it like this, if you're the kind of person who likes a lot of control, this probably isn't going to be in your comfort zone. This is one for people who just want to get a kind of a random effect. Okay, so I'm going to pop that on one side to dry. Okay, so the other way of using it, and let's get the shimmering white this time. So that time I put dry crystals down, and I went on top with the wet. And this time I'm going to wet my card first. And I don't know whether you can see, but there must have been tiny little bits of crystal on that card, and you literally need one that is, you need a piece that is so tiny. Okay, what colour should we do this time? What do you think? Let's go with the Brilliant Red, and let's go with the green, and a bit of yellow, I think, to make it all happy. Okay, now I can let that do its own thing, or I can add a bit more colour. I'm going a bit more colour, a bit more water, just to get it all working away. And again, I can come in with a brush and I can encourage some bits to go into areas where I want them to. Can do that. It's entirely up to me. And I can leave it like that, or and because I do want to put this off to one side, I'm going to come in with my cloth and blot. Brushos are not waterproof, and while you could use them to colour fabric, it won't be fast. Okay, so first time you wash it, out it will go. Okay, so now if I like, I can put in, I'm going to put a bit more yellow into here and let that do its own thing. Okay, and that, I think I'm really liking that one. Okay, the less water you get, the more granular, if that's what I'm trying to say that the colours will be. So I'm going to put that on one side and let that dry as well. Another thing that you can do is you can use these with a resist technique. Now I've done a bit of work ahead of time. This is the thick whisper white, and I'm not sure how well as you can see, just about. I have stamped and embossed. So I've stamped using Versamark, and this image is from the Falling Flowers stamp set, and I embossed with clear embossing powder. I could have used white. In this particular case I used clear. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw on a few Brushos. So I've got Brilliant Red. Now these, of course, these are not Stampin' Up colours, they are Brushos choice of colours. A bit of gamboge, nice block there, and some yellow. Ooh, got a nice generously sized hole in the top of the yellow, and again just spraying. So the theory is that where you can see, oh, that's very clear, is that where the embossing, the clear embossing is, then that will resist the brushes, that will resist the watercolour. Okay, and I'm just playing with this. And again, you can never be 100% sure of the result that you're going to get, because it is kind of random. So just play with it, for heaven's sake, just play with it. And, if you've got too much water, or you've got water where you don't want it, then you know, just blot it off. You're in control of this, right? You are in charge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow that to dry really well, and then come back and buff off any bits that might have gone over the top. Now for this technique, you want to use a stamp with a nice clear, you know, a nice clear and solid line. You wouldn't want to do anything too fiddly. Right, and finally the starch technique. Okay, and this time I'm going to use my, and I can bring in another piece of craft sheet to work on. because I'm going to want to pick this up and move it out of the way to dry. Alright, okay, let's move that away because I don't need that anymore. Okay, these are the sort of results that you get with the starch technique, and it's a sort of a variation of the cling film technique, which normally I would do just with water, right? But I really like this because it gives a lovely textured finish, and the starch gives a sort of silk sheen to the card. So I don't know whether or not this is going to work, right? This could be a complete disaster, but I just wanted to show you that it does work if you use an ordinary, you know, something like a thick whisper white or a watercolor paper or a shimmery white. And where have I put my starch? Okay. So I have ordinary spray starch. Okay, get the cheapest you can find. Doesn't need to be anything special. And I have a sheet of cling film. Tearing this off the roll. Okay. And again, it's not a particularly brilliant piece of cling film. This piece is kind of all over the shop, and I'm just checking that it is actually going to be big enough. It is just, I think. Okay. So I just scrumple that up. Actually, I think I will get a different piece. And make sure I've got a nice big piece in the middle. Bear with me 1 minute. Bear with. Okay, that's better. Nice, generous sized piece of cling film. Okay, so here we go. Big experiment. So, spray starch. Okay, give it a nice coating of spray starch. You might want to do this in a well ventilated room. Okay, so what colours am I going to use today? What shall we have? What shall we have? Let's have gamboge. And a spot of moss green. I think I want just a little bit of yellow. Not too much, but I'm already liking those two colours together. I'm already liking that. Okay. Now, I could leave that to do its own thing. Which I'm actually liking. As you can see, the moss green is splitting up beautifully, but I'm going to bring in my piece of cling film, and actually before I do this, if I wanted to put some light sprinkling of glitter in there, this would be the time to do it, because the starch has got a little bit more body than your ordinary common or garden water, and would help to hold it in there. Mica powders would also be good. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that down on top. Just a bit down. And now I have a little bit of control, not a great deal, but I have a little bit of control over where I want the colours to go. So I'm just swishing this around, squishing it around, and I'm kind of happy with where my colours are, which is about now. I'm just going to stop, and I'm going to put that on one side to dry for about half an hour. Alright, the timing isn't critical, but you need to leave it, I would say, at least half an hour. And then when you're finished, if I can bring back the ones I did earlier, you wind up with this sort of effect. Okay, so this one is Prussian blue and brilliant red. This one is yellow and Prussian blue. You get those lovely green tones coming in. And this one is moss green and yellow. And when I actually put the cling film onto this one, it was really quite it was really quite dark. It was kind of, you have those kind of deep purple patches that you can see there, almost brown. You have those colours, and yet when it was, when it was given time to dry, that's what it came out like. So I'm going to leave these pieces that I've been doing to get nice and dry. so that I can use them in future projects. Let's show that one. Yeah, put some pictures of them at the end, so that you can have a look how they all came out. But that is it for today. I will be back to my normal format of card making before very much longer. Thank you for joining me, and come back and see me again soon. Bye bye.